we are on to our final panel of the day now, and I will hand this over to Miss Maureen Hilyard, who will be the moderator. Maureen is actually another co-coordinator of the DC SIDS program. And she's also a former chair of the ALAC within the ICANN hierarchy. That's the at-large advisory committee of ICANN, and a former Pacific board chair and .Asia board director coming at present. And she's also the incoming Internet Society board director, and incoming Internet Society board director in the Pacific. So Maureen, over to you to coordinate this panel on digital inclusion for prosperity. Looking forward and making things happen. Over to you, Maureen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nigel, for that lovely introduction. Sorry, clearing my throat here. One of the disadvantages of being at the end of the program is that most of the earlier speakers have raised a lot of what has been said about our topic. Right. But I have every confidence in my panelists, to be able to add to the current conversations, especially as we're going to be focusing on the services that regional organisations are providing our small islands to support the needs of our internet end users. I really like the definition of the SIDS acronym that ESO and Ugo it contributed to earlier, the Smart Island Digital States, which is particularly relevant to this, to our current era of digital transformation. So one of the important challenges for governments and private sector organisations is that we want to discuss in our session today is how we might bridge the digital divide to ensure, as Renata raised earlier, that everyone can afford and can access the tools that they need to ensure their digital participation. And that means too that they can experience the full potential of the internet. So today we have 4 speakers, but 3 of them are actually sort of like present, in person online, who can address this important topic for internet users from our small islands from the perspective of their regional organisations. And I'd like to give the floor to our speakers for about 5 minutes each, and then allow for 10 minutes at the end for some discussion on any questions that may be raised in the chat, or then we can get to them at the end. But our first, just to quickly go through our speaker list, we first have Tereza Horejsova, who is currently the outreach manager for the Global Forum of Cyber Expertise, which Pua mentioned earlier. And Tereza is based near Geneva, which is where many of us will have met her when she was with the Diplo Foundation. And I know that Tracy and I were amongst, got our first introduction to internet governance through Diplo. And Tereza's always been a very strong supporter of the work that we've been doing in the DC SIDS, and we've been very grateful for that support and to have her on our team today. We also have Cherie Lagakali, who originally from Fiji and now based with her family in New Zealand. She's recently taken over as the Pacific manager for Netsafe, which you will hear about. And Cherie was also a former chair of the PIC-ISOC board and also a former manager of the Pacific Hub of the GFCE. So there's another connection there as well. Very qualified for her current role. We also have Sarai Tevita, who is from Samoa, and she is the current chair of the PIC-ISOC board. And Sarai is the ICT director of the National University of Samoa and also the president of the Samoan Information Technology Association, but more from Sarai soon. We were to have another guest, Mahendranath Busgopaul from Mauritius, but he's having some issues with connectivity. But he was prepared for this inevitability. So he has a video which we will show later in our session. But Mahendranath is actually the Secretary General of the Halley movement, which is a coalition of charitable organisations that protect the interests of children and their families in Mauritius. And he's also a director of the Mauritius and Indian Ocean States IGF. So we really want to it's really important that we actually have contributions from the Caribbean, the Pacific, and the African community, IGF communities, as part of this SIDS event today. So I think we'll start off our conversation with the first question, which is digital inclusion is all about creating a level playing field for everyone using the internet. So to summarise for each of you, what would be your organisation's top 2 key enablers to support a level playing field for internet users on our small islands? Starting off with Tereza.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Everybody, it's good to be here with many friends, I can say. Yes, to answer your questions for the GFCE, the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise, it's very important to also be participating in events like this, like the Small Islands, the Small Island States IGF. This is well past my bedtime, so that confirms that I find it worthwhile to be here with you tonight. And why is that? That is because the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise, we have mentioned that we have the hubs, and I'll get back to it in a minute, but we have really tried to change our approach to cyber capacity building from this era of very supply driven approach to, telling countries what they need to a more demand driven approach. That's quite some fancy words, but what it actually means is that we want the actual countries to be the owners of their capacity building future, shaping the priorities and be in the driving seat. And in this logics, about 2-3 years ago, the GFC really started trying to materialize this idea by establishing regional hubs. Which we currently have in various formats and shapes and different kind of stuffing and similar aspects in 4 regions. One of them is the Pacific Islands. The second, also heavily dominated, of course, by the SIDS agenda, the Americas and the Caribbean, obviously also Africa and Southeast Asia. So in all these regions, we have hubs with local people, local staff, local experts who really understand the situation, who really have, extensive network, and who can then help us shape how capacity building in the field of cybersecurity unfolds on the global level. So, part of your question, Maureen, was about this creating of this level playing field. Sorry. So this is what I actually meant by the previous points. Yes, that it is kind of changing the dynamics by having the countries themselves to shape it. This is also where we try to kind of come in as the GFCE, because one problem that we have seen in digital development, cyber capacity building, is that there is tremendous duplication of efforts, which obviously means much less efficiency, much less efficacy, much smaller impact, and not very smart use of resources, which obviously are needed, but also not bottomless. So this is where we try to connect the various dots among the hubs, the global developments, and then in this respect, hopefully, make some contribution and bring some difference. By collecting the information, and having a good overview of who does what, in all of these regions, I would also like to stress that we focus quite extensively on trying to align the efforts of the donors themselves, because also on this end is there quite insufficient coordination, which can always be improved. So that is very briefly, answer to your question, Maureen, of what the GFC, the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise, can do in this respect: cybersecurity, digital development, digital inclusion. Over to you.
Thank you, Tereza. Yes, I think that think global and go local is a very sort of like important theme for us. And I guess, Cherie, you're actually looking at a national sort of like an organisation working on a national perspective now. So what is your organisation sort of like doing?
Well, good morning, Maureen. Kiara, Gulavinaka, everybody. As Maureen has mentioned, I am with Netsafe New Zealand. And Netsafe is in fact, the approved agency for the digital, it's called Harmful Digital Communications Act of New Zealand. And so Netsafe is, its biggest aim is helping the people of New Zealand to create safer and positive online spaces. And to answer your question about how it's being inclusive, Netsafe recently received funding from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade New Zealand for a project to take materials and campaigns and awareness campaigns to 5 Pacific Island countries. Now, these were Samoa, Cook Islands, Niue, Tokelau, and Vanuatu. And in order to make it more inclusive, Netsafe is also looking at extending this to the other Pacific Island countries. And so we're working on making sure, like Teresa had mentioned earlier, there's a lot of duplication of efforts. There's a lot of, because it's a very small space and there's a lot of things that are happening. Our aim when we first started this project was to gather fellows from these Pacific Island countries and work with them to find out what is already there so that we're not taking something and repeating it and duplicating it all over again. And then sitting down and working with the needs of what of the Pacific Island countries, what exactly where they are at and what the Pacific Island countries are doing and where those gaps are. And so identifying those gaps and working in partnership with these Pacific Island countries. Having this specific manager role was a new role. It was created by Netsafe, and I was hired for this role, being a Pacific Island country, from the Pacific Island countries and being aware of what's already happening on the ground. And you asked for 2. So the other thing that Netsafe is working on is we're creating content for the elderly, because the most vulnerable people in the society are our children and our elderly. And we've had a number of cases where, our grandparents and our mothers and grandfathers are clicking on a link and all their money is taken away. And so, working with the elderly, also in the context of the Pacific, looking to create materials for the elderly in our societies in the Pacific as well as New Zealand.
Great. Thanks, Cherie. So this sort of leads straight into yours. I mean, with all the work that is actually being happening in the region with Tereza and Cherie, I mean, PICOSOC has a very important coordination role. So how do you see that PICOSOC can be involved in this? You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. Talofa from Samoa. Good morning, all. Good evening, good afternoon. Yes, thank you for the question. According to the PICOSOC, I'll answer from the PICOSOC perspective first before I move to the National University, where I'm ICT director there. Yes, with the PICOSOC, as you know, that we all in the PICOSOC, we're trying our best to have the platform for all our experts and the Pacific people with IT backgrounds and IT expertise to come and share their successful stories. Hence, we have our IGF as the annual event. And with a theme, we have selected themes every year. So for this year, we're going to have another IGF at Wellington, co-located with AP 58. Last year, we had one at Brisbane. So the lesson learned from those from the previous IGF will be improved for the next IGF. The other thing that the PICOSOC is doing with promoting the digital inclusion is to continually use our mailing list. If you see that sometimes it's being silent and sometimes it's being very busy due to interesting matters that our people, they try to share. And it's very interesting to see other parts of the Pacific Islands, they already expose things that other Pacific Islands not doing it. Example with existing of the Starlink. other Pacific Island countries, they're not accepting Starlink yet. For example, Samoa, they were coming in 2025 because there were some issues before during this year. So now 2025, the Starlink will come to Samoa, but I've seen other Pacific countries like Tonga to already there. Vanuatu, I think discussion with their legislation, it's passed, so the Starlink is there. So having that infrastructure in place, having the networking connectivity in place will boost the internet and digital inclusion and give opportunity to entrepreneurs to, to sell their products online because we have their infrastructure. Coming back to the National University of Samoa, with the question you proposed, Maureen, it's very important to see, the key enablers for us is our learning management system or the online learning management system where the students need to access. And that point out from when we were hit by the COVID-19, when we had that major lockdown. And that's where I think most of the Pacific Islands as well shift from the traditional way of delivering and teaching to online, full online platform. And that happens, I think it happens to all, but from the Pacific wise, it's a totally shift for us. And that will keep us, pushing to improve the infrastructure, robust the ecosystem in infrastructure, and also boosting the digital skills of our people. Providing an online learning management system for our students in education sector, it gives not only the university, the staff, the teachers, the support staff, but also the students. We're giving them a good idea, like boosting their knowledge of how to use internet, how to use applications online, and how to access internet. It's also considering the cybersecurity issues, where Cherie and the team came I think it was last year, and they deliver those workshops and trainings for the Pacific people, to keep them educating about using internet online. The other key enablers that I see it myself is the collaborative. It's a collaboration and partnership. Because during that time of the COVID, everything was dependent on internet. So university has to partner with the telcos so that they can give us zero SIM for our students to access the learning management system freely, the email, and some of our online resources. So when we have that time, everyone needs to work together. When we have the lockdown or remote learning, the collaborative issues that need to be partnered well, because that's where everyone needs to work together to deliver this digital inclusion. So I'll stop from there, Maureen. I'm happy to answer any questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarai. I think that one of the important issues that you mentioned was that whole collaboration, and especially with PICISOC, the fact that you've been able to partner with, like what's happening regionally that you can actually, get support from. And, like I think working with the APR IGF last year and then now moving to APNIC, you've got moving from an internet governance to a really a technical sort of like side of things, because, the internet does have to incorporate that technical component. And so that collaboration is really, really important. And I think that does sort of like lead us to, you mentioned the pandemic. And the pandemic highlighted not only the importance of digital inclusion, but as you also mentioned, the unpreparedness of many of our small island nations for this eventuality. I know that, Samoa was probably a lot more advanced in making sure that you could actually sort of move into education, was able to sort of like move more easily into that digital sort of like space. But I do believe that in the Cook Islands, for example, they were totally unprepared. There was not, there wasn't enough energy that had actually been put into the whole digital side of things. And then they got hit by the pandemic. But one of the things that I wanted to look at from looking at your organisations is what is one practical piece of advice that you, as your organisation, can give the governments. I mean, it's the governments who actually sort of like lead in this area. And so, if you have to sort of like, you've been called upon to be, to give the government of our small island developing states, or our smart island digital states in the Pacific, in Africa or the Caribbean, depending on where it is that you happen to be working, to ensure that digital inclusion for prosperity in the future. I mean, this is the whole point. You raise the e-commerce, the fact that we've got young entrepreneurs, we've got these young people who've got brimming with ideas. How do we ensure that the governments themselves are aligned with what is required for their countries to actually sort of like be economically productive? We'll go back to you, Tereza.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Yes, no, this is of course an important topic. This panel is also about inclusion and prosperity. But I would again like to stress the necessary link we need to have of inclusion and prosperity to cybersecurity, to cyber in general, because that is kind of a topic that is not explored in practice as much as we would like. And it was also this which was behind the efforts of the GFCE to try to connect these two discourses a little bit more, because security and digital development are so closely related. And it was also in this spirit that we started with our partners and hosts, I would say, kind of a unique event, the GC3B, the Global Conference on Cyber Capacity Building, which really tried to bring these two discussions together. The last edition, the first edition, took place in Ghana. The next one will take place next year in Switzerland, in Geneva. And what I think is quite relevant and what I hope might give some inspiration to also to governments attending this event or from small island developing states in general, is that the conference produced quite a concrete outcome document, which we refer to as the Accra Call, which basically really tries to strengthen kind of the role of cyber resilience as an enabler for sustainable development, which again tries to advance this demand-driven, effective and sustainable cyber capacity building, which also tries to foster stronger partnerships and better coordination that I've already been talking about. And what is obviously a very big relevance is to unlock more financial resources that can then help SIDS and other countries that need that. So what I would strongly suggest is that you explore the Accra Call and help us endorse the Accra Call. It's a very simple process. There is a link, on our website that you can just click and add the name of your country or other entities. This is not just for governments. To kind of reconfirm that you agree with this approach, which will help us ultimately to bring even more political awareness, to this issue, and really can have some direct benefits for a question. You can be in touch with me. You can be in touch with our hubs that some of our colleagues are actually present in this call as well, with PUA, Sarai for the Pacific, or others. But don't hesitate to just drop us an email. We would go through, and together, we can then really put it a bit higher on the political agenda. Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tereza. Cherie, what's something that Netsafe could suggest to the New Zealand government or the Pacific Island governments, actually?
Thanks, Maureen. From Netsafe, it would be strengthening our communities on the ground, Pacific Island communities, or even just the Pacific diaspora here in New Zealand, or generally the New Zealand communities, working with what's already on the ground and deconflicting. From me personally, I had about 4 points because listening to all the speakers today, the reality is that internet is a way of life for us. We operate, we live, our societies operate. So however that is, it's through the internet or related to the internet or around the internet. And when we're the focus in the past, right until today, was getting our communities online. So now that everybody is online, it's digital transformation. And so I'm hoping that, digital transformation goes hand in hand with what Tereza said, cybersecurity. While we're advancing our technology, we are also looking at how to keep our systems safe and our communities safe. And so that comes with education of our societies, whether that's through community champions or through education materials. Our internet has gone so far ahead, our education is still catching up, and we don't want to change our education because it would mean an overhaul. And changing an overhaul of the systems would mean that we might have to pay for an added person to bring in online safe materials into the schools, because the teachers are already overworked, are already tired, already trying to manage the schools and the teaching curriculum. How are they going to put the safe online materials and content online themselves, or teach it themselves if they themselves are not aware of it? And they have been teaching like this for so many years and then having to teach like this differently now. And in New Zealand, when we came into New Zealand last year, we had, coming from the Pacific, we had to learn to put my 14-year-old online. But now this year, primary schools are going online. And so our kids in our schools are getting these tablets, and they're learning how to use Google Classrooms, and they are having their own blog, and everything that they are learning is going into these blogs. And so my 8-year-old comes home in the afternoon with his small laptop, which I don't know how he was allowed to bring in the first place, which will get connected to my internet at home, which I have to worry about the security of our devices and whether anything is going to get passed on through there. And then having to teach him, he can't just access it. He's clicking and he's clicking and he's clicking. He's wondering why his page is not loading because it has to connect to the Wi-Fi. But after getting him onto the Wi-Fi, getting him to that page, just the whole thing around education of how to, education materials around staying safe online has to go hand in hand with the changes in the curriculum, not just getting our kids online and that's it, or getting our communities online and that's it. The other one was, I don't know if anybody is aware that there was a 5.0 earthquake in Tonga yesterday morning. And so, disaster resilience, and if there was a tsunami after that, we probably have been having a different conversation because the SIDS director was not going to be online this morning. But thankfully, there was no tsunami. But it's how we live in the Pacific Islands. Every day there's an earthquake. Every day global warming, the tides are going up, and we'll probably get washed away in another 5-10 years. And the other one was AI is here to stay. And, we haven't got digital transformation sorted out, and AI is already here, and we'll have to figure out our way around that. Thank you, Maureen.
Wow, you certainly have brought up quite a lot of issues, and especially, AI, but the climate change issue, and Tonga has, and Papua New Guinea. There's so many, as you say, there's something happening every day, and the small island states, really do have to put up with quite a lot of, in relation to it. But Sarai, looking at there are certainly, I like the idea of the community champions, for example, and that's something that actually could come from PICISOC if we're going to be filtering, community champions across the Pacific, which is what you deal with.
Thank you, Maureen. Yes, working with the community, I think, as I mentioned before, it's a collaborative work because the government can't do it themselves. The education can't do it themselves. The regulation, the legislation can't do it themselves. Because the people-centric, it's the key of all these developments that we engage to do it. So Yes, you mentioned that with the PKSOC, we work closely with other organizations like APNIC, ICANN, and recently, as you know, that we are part of the ALAC as well. It's very good to be part of those organizations and get engaged so that we learn from other champions. So from the Pacific, from the PKSOC as well, with this continuous collaboration, continuous sharing successful stories on our mailing list is another way to learn from other countries, from other perspective. But for the SIDS, for the Samoa IT Association, they were like a lifesaver during the lockdown, during the COVID. Not only the university, continue providing their online learning, but also that society came and helped out other schools in providing their Moodle. So if you have that engagement with the community, especially the special group, that they have the skills and knowledge to do it, then those are the people that we need to tap in. But in general, the investment of the government that needs to put into this digital inclusion is the infrastructure development. As we know, in the Pacific, all of our islands are remotely connected. So we want to have that infrastructure in place so that to improve the internet connectivity, as Cherie mentioned, internet everything, so that including the broadband infrastructure to be improved, our mobile networks, as well as our last mile connectivity to remote areas. And also our people need to embrace the technologies like the internet, like the satellite, the fiber optics in place. We need to have both in the Pacific. We learned from Tonga when they were hit by that tsunami, lake Samoa as well, when we hit by tsunami, the earthquake and the volcano in Tonga. So the connectivity was all down. So we need to have both, like in the aerial as well as the ground, so that the continuity of our work can be done. The other thing that we need to look at is to strengthen the cybersecurity measures that my fellows here mentioned. So we need to invest in those robust cybersecurity infrastructure and policies, because everything's online. Our kids' life will be, it's not safe. But having those measures in place and keep educating our people of how to use it, then we freely, and then we say internet is open, not close it, but keep the internet open so that our people can access it and freely use it, as as they're free in space. Just to wrap up my comments, it's this collaborative work like we have here with the SIDS and CTU. If we don't have this collaboration, we never heard from other people. Even it SIDS, the small island states. I think it's a continuity that we need to see how sustainable this will be. And we need other people to come as well, to share their successful stories, the challenges, and how they fix it. So continually have this collaborative regionally and internationally, so that we have that, learn the best practice and share the resources, because we don't have enough resources here in the Pacific. I'll close it from here. I'm Maureen. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Sarai. In fact, you actually sort of like encapsulated everything that we've actually sort of like raised during this half hour or 40 minutes that we've actually had. But I would like to now, because we wanted to also include the African sort of like participation in our session, I'd like to end our session, because we're sort of like at the end of our time anyway, but with they're going to play Mahendranath's presentation that he prepared, because he knew that he suspected that he might not have good connectivity today. So thank you so much, all of you, for being with us as early in the morning or late at night for you, Tereza. And I really do appreciate it. And I hope that the CTU team has got the video presentation ready to close our session. Thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, good morning. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to be a panel speaker in this session on digital inclusion for prosperity. Today I am addressing you in my capacity as the Deputy Presiding Officer of the African Union ECOSOC and Treasurer of GCAP, and I will speak on digital inclusion in Mauritius and Africa. In our rapidly evolving world, digital technology has become the backbone of progress and development. However, to fully harness its potential, we must ensure that everyone can access and use these technologies so as not to leave anyone behind. Digital inclusion is about providing all individuals and communities, especially the most disadvantaged, access to information communication technology. This goes beyond mere access to the internet and digital devices, and it includes the skills, knowledge, and confidence to utilize these technologies to enhance their lives. Africa, with its diverse cultures and dynamic economies, stands at a crucial juncture. The continent is home to some of the world's fastest growing economies and a burgeoning youth population eager to innovate and lead. Yet, the digital divide remains a significant barrier to unleashing this potential. In Mauritius, known for its progressive policies and economic resilience, digital inclusion is equally critical for sustaining growth and ensuring that all citizens benefit from technological advancements. Digital inclusion drives prosperity in multiple ways. Number one, economic empowerment. Access to digital tools and services can create new economic opportunities, particularly for small and medium enterprises. It enables entrepreneurs to reach broader markets, innovate, and compete globally. For instance, mobile banking and digital payments have revolutionized commerce in many African countries, providing financial services to the unbanked and underbanked populations. Number two, education and skills development. Digital platforms can democratize education, offering quality learning resources and training to everyone, regardless of the geographical location. E-learning and online courses will equip individuals with the skills needed to thrive in the modern workforce, fostering a culture of continuous learning and adaptation. And health improvement. Telemedicine and digital health services can bridge the gap in healthcare access, especially in remote and underserved areas. These technologies can facilitate remote consultations, health monitoring, and dissemination of vital health information, and improving overall health outcomes. While the benefits of digital inclusion are clear, the path to achieving it is fraught and challenging. The increase in internet use has also paved the way for the proliferation of its dark side, with a rampant spread of misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech, the regular occurrence of data breaches, and an increase in cybercrimes. These include infrastructure deficits, high costs of connectivity, digital literacy gaps, and socio-economic inequalities. Addressing these challenges requires a multifaceted approach. Number one, investing in infrastructure. Expanding broadband networks and ensuring reliable, affordable internet access is fundamental. Public-private partnerships can play a pivotal role in building the necessary infrastructure, especially in rural and underserved regions. Number two, affordable access. Efforts must be made to reduce the cost of digital devices and services. Subsidies, innovative financing models, and competitive markets can help make technology more affordable for everybody. And lastly, enhancing digital literacy. Providing education and training programs to improve digital skills is very crucial. This includes not just basic digital literacy, but also advanced technical skills to prepare individuals for the digital economy. Achieving digital inclusion for prosperity is not a task for any single entity. It requires collaboration across governments, the private sector, civil society, and also international organizations. By improving together, we can pool resources, share knowledge, and develop comprehensive strategies that address the diverse needs for our communities. Digital inclusion is not just a technological imperative, it is a socio-economic necessity. It is about empowering individuals, fostering innovation, and driving sustainable development. For Africa and Mauritius, embracing digital inclusion means unlocking the potential of our people, fostering inclusive growth, and building resilience for prosperous societies. As a civil society organization, we are dedicated to bridging the digital divide and fostering digital inclusion for all. Our initiatives include providing affordable access to internet and digital devices through community partnerships and subsidies, conducting, of course, digital literacy training programs to equip individuals with essential skills, and advocating for inclusive policies that support equitable access to ICTs. We collaborate with governments, private sector partners, and other NGOs to build infrastructure, promote digital rights, and ensure that marginalized communities are not left behind. By empowering people with the tools and knowledge to participate in the digital world, we aim to drive sustainable development and inclusive prosperity. Let us commit to this vision of a digitally inclusive future where every individual, regardless of their background or location, has the opportunity to thrive in the digital age. Together, we can turn the promise of digital technology into tangible progress for all. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Any closing words, Maureen?
No, that will do it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for coordinating that.